The second my parents learned about my inheritance, they decided their debts were my burden. Gran passed away on a Tuesday. She'd raised Mom alone while working 2 factory jobs, double shifts most weeks. Gran was the kind of woman who saved twist ties and reused plastic bags because you never knew when you'd need them. At the funeral, Mom kept checking her phone between sobs. Dad kept mentioning how expensive the flowers were. I didn't say Gran had prepaid for everything, including the roses. The lawyer called me in alone. Gran had left me everything. Her house, paid off 30 years ago. Her savings, accumulated over 6 decades. $340,000 total. I was 23, working retail for $14 an hour, sharing an apartment with 2 roommates. This inheritance meant college without loans. A safety net I'd never had. I told my parents that night over dinner. Mom's face lit up. Perfect timing, she said. We can finally pay off the house. Dad leaned forward. We refinanced twice. Your sister's wedding cost more than expected. The renovations ran way over. How much do you owe? $180,000, Mom said quickly, plus credit cards, and Dad's truck needs replacing. The requests came faster. My brother needed $30,000 for his startup. My sister wanted help buying a home. Dad's knee surgery bills weren't fully covered. Gran left this to me, I said quietly. Mom's expression changed. Don't be selfish. Family helps family. We raised you for 18 years. You owe us. I owe you for being my parents? That money should have been mine, Mom snapped. She always liked you better. Dad pulled out a folder. Inside was a spreadsheet titled, Cost of Raising Child. 18 years of expenses down to the dollar. Food, clothes, birthday presents. Their math put my childhood at $245,000. We're not asking for all of it, Dad said. Just what we're owed. I stared at Christmas gifts from 2003. Full mortgage payments, as if I'd lived alone. I need time, I managed. Time? Mom laughed. We're losing the house. The bank's threatening foreclosure. But sure, take your time. I moved out that weekend. My brother stopped answering texts. My sister uninvited me to dinners. My aunt called to say I was breaking Mom's heart. 2 weeks later, my parents sued for elder abuse, claiming Gran wasn't in her right mind. The lawsuit was dismissed, but it cost me $15,000 in legal fees. Dad showed up at my work crying about his ungrateful daughter. Mom posted on social media about abandoned parents. They gave my number to debt collectors. Last week, a certified letter arrived. They're selling the house. The letter blamed me entirely. Said I could have prevented this. That Gran would be ashamed. But here's what they don't know. I found a locked box in Gran's attic. Inside were letters spanning years. Letters from Mom asking Gran for money, begging for loans that were never repaid. Letters where Gran gently refused, explaining she was saving for my future because she could see what they couldn't. The last letter was dated 1 week before Gran died. In shaky handwriting, she'd written, They will come for this money. They will make you feel guilty. But my darling girl, guilt is just their weapon. You owe them nothing but honesty. Live the life I couldn't. That's what this money is for. This morning, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a woman's voice said, Is this about the inheritance? I'm your mother's sister, the one she never told you about. My hand froze on the phone. What do you mean? The woman laughed softly, no humor in it. Meet me tomorrow. There's something about your grandmother's money you need to know. Something your parents have been hiding for 23 years. I met her at a diner 3 blocks from my apartment. She'd chosen the location, said it was neutral ground. I arrived 15 minutes early and ordered coffee I couldn't drink. My stomach had been in knots since the phone call. She walked in at exactly 2 p.m. I recognized her immediately. She had Gran's eyes, same deep brown, same way of looking at you like she could see straight through to your bones. You must be her, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. Aunt Diane, I said carefully. Mom never mentioned you. I'm sure she didn't. Diane pulled off her coat, revealing a nurse's scrubs underneath. Just finished a double shift. Didn't want to waste time changing. She ordered coffee, black, and waited until the waitress left before speaking again. Your grandmother and I spoke every week for 40 years, she said. She told me everything, including what your parents would do when she died. I wrapped my hands around my mug. Why didn't she tell me about you? Because your mother forbade it. Diane's jaw tightened. 30 years ago, I made a choice your mother never forgave me for. I left my husband. He was abusive, controlling. Your mother said I was breaking up the family, ruining our reputation. She chose his side. That's insane. That's your mother. Diane stirred her coffee slowly. After the divorce, your mother told everyone I was dead. Easier than admitting her sister had divorced a man from a good family. Your grandmother kept our relationship secret to keep the peace. My phone buzzed. Mom calling for the 4th time today. I declined it. Gran left you a letter too, I said. Didn't she? Diane reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. The handwriting matched the one I'd found. She sent this 2 weeks before she died. Made me promise not to contact you until after the inheritance settled. She slid it across the table. I didn't open it. There's something else, Diane said. The $340,000 your parents are so desperate for, that's not actually your full inheritance. The diner suddenly felt too small, too hot. What do you mean? Your grandmother had another account. A trust, actually. One she set up when you were born. Diane leaned forward. Your parents don't know about it because it was created in my name as trustee. Your grandmother didn't trust them not to drain it before you turned 18. How much? $680,000? I set down my coffee before I dropped it. Over $1 million total. Gran had worked factory jobs her entire life and left me over $1 million. She started saving the day you were born, Diane continued. Every bonus, every tax return, every dollar she could spare. She watched your parents spend money like water while complaining about being broke. She knew they'd bleed you dry if they could. Why didn't she just tell me? Because she was terrified they'd find out and contest it. Or worse, manipulate you into signing it over before you understood what you had. Diane pulled out a folder. The trust becomes yours on your 24th birthday, 2 months from now. I stared at the papers. Account statements, investment portfolios, property deeds. Gran had been far more strategic than anyone knew. There's a house too, Diane said quietly. In Vermont. She bought it 10 years ago under my name, said it was meant to be your escape route if you ever needed one. Fully paid off, utilities included in a prepaid account for 5 years. I don't understand. Why all the secrecy? Your mother stole from her before? Diane's voice went flat. When you were 3, your grandmother won $50,000 in a wrongful termination settlement. Your mother found out and convinced her to invest it in your father's business venture. They lost every penny in 6 months. Your grandmother never saw a dollar returned. The pieces clicked together. The letters begging for money. The loans never repaid. Mom hadn't just asked Gran for help. She'd taken it, promised to pay it back, and never did. Gran spent the rest of her life making sure it couldn't happen again, Diane said. She worked herself into the ground to save this money for you. She wanted you to have choices she never had, opportunities your mother would never give you. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Dad. We need to talk. This is urgent. Family emergency. I showed Diane the screen. They're getting desperate, she said. How much have they asked for so far? Everything. Plus, money I haven't even received yet. I scrolled through the messages. Demands for loan payments, requests for my credit card, threats about what would happen if I didn't help. The trust has conditions, Diane said. Your grandmother was very specific. You can't give any of it to your parents, not a dollar. If you do, the entire trust reverts to charity. She knew. She always knew. Diane squeezed my hand. She watched your mother manipulate people for years. She wasn't going to let it happen to you. The waitress refilled our coffee. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of Gran's planning settling over us. There's one more thing, Diane said. The locked box you found in the attic. There's another one. In my house. Your grandmother gave it to me 6 months before she died. Made me promise not to open it unless your parents tried to take legal action. They already did. The elder abuse lawsuit. Diane's expression hardened. Then it's time you saw what's inside. We drove to Diane's house in separate cars. She lived in a small ranch on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that looked like it had been loved for decades. Inside, everything was neat, organized. Photos of people I didn't recognize covered the mantel. My kids, Diane said, noticing my gaze. Your cousins, they're dying to meet you. I have cousins, 3 of them, all adults now. Your grandmother sent them birthday cards every year. Your mother never let you send any back. She disappeared into a back bedroom and returned with a metal lockbox, larger than the one I'd found. She set it on the kitchen table between us. Your grandmother left me the key and very specific instructions, Diane said. I'm supposed to show you this if your parents sued you, tried to claim you were incompetent, or attempted to freeze the inheritance. She unlocked the box. Inside were documents. Dozens of them. Bank statements showing 27 years of loans Mom had taken from Gran. Credit card bills Gran had paid off for them. Mortgage payments she'd covered. A running total in Gran's handwriting showed $127,000 given to my parents over the years. Money they'd promised to repay. Money they'd forgotten the moment it hit their accounts. But that wasn't all. Underneath the financial records were emails, printed and dated. Years of correspondence between Mom and Gran. In them, Mom complained about me, said I was difficult, ungrateful, expensive, asked when Gran was going to update her will, suggested Gran was getting older and might want to make sure everything was in order. One email from 3 years ago made my hand shake. Mom, you're not getting any younger. Have you thought about what happens to your money when you're gone? I know you love her, but she's young. She doesn't understand the value of money yet. Maybe you should leave everything to me, and I'll make sure she gets what she needs when she's ready. Gran's response was short. The money goes where it goes. My will is final. The next email showed Mom had tried to get Gran to sign a new will. She'd even gone so far as to have one drawn up by her own lawyer. Gran had refused. She tried to steal it before you even knew it existed, Diane said quietly. I kept reading. Email after email showing Mom's attempts to control Gran's money, suggesting Gran was confused, implying she wasn't capable of making her own decisions, pressuring her to move into a nursing home where Mom could have power of attorney. The final document was a notarized statement. In it, Gran declared she was of sound mind and body, that any attempts to claim otherwise after her death were false, that she knew exactly what she was doing with her money and her will. She filed this with 3 different lawyers, Diane said, dated and witnessed 2 days before she died. She knew your parents would try to say she was senile. They did, in the lawsuit. And the judge threw it out because your grandmother had planned for this exact scenario. Diane closed the box. She spent the last year of her life building a legal wall they couldn't break through. I thought about the lawsuit, the $15,000 in legal fees. My lawyer had said it was an easy dismissal, that the evidence of Gran's competency was overwhelming. Now I knew why. Your grandmother loved you more than anything, Diane said. But she wasn't naive. She knew exactly what your parents were. She spent decades watching them take and take and take. She refused to let them take you too. My phone rang again. Mom this time. I answered on speaker. Where are you? Mom demanded. We've been trying to reach you all day. I'm busy. Too busy for your family? Your father's at the bank right now trying to save our house. They're foreclosing next week. We need that money. I don't have it to give. Don't lie to me. We know you have it. The lawyer told us the estate settled. You're sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars while your parents lose everything. Diane shook her head, mouthing the word no. Mom, I can't help you. Can't or won't. Her voice rose. You know what? I'm done begging. You want to abandon your family? Fine. But don't come crawling back when you need us. I won't. The line went silent for a moment. What did you just say? I said I won't. I won't come back. I won't ask for help. I won't pretend we're a family when all you see is a bank account. You ungrateful little… I hung up. Diane was smiling. She's been waiting 23 years to hear someone tell your mother no. Who? Your grandmother. I think she'd be proud. That night, I stayed at Diane's house. We went through every document, every letter, every piece of evidence Gran had collected. The picture became clearer with each page. My parents weren't just bad with money. They were predators. They'd spent their entire marriage leveraging other people to fund their lifestyle. Gran had been their primary target, but there were others. Dad's parents had given them $40,000 for a business that never materialized. Mom's other sister had loaned them $15,000 for medical bills that turned out to be a vacation to Hawaii. They had a pattern of asking, receiving, and disappearing until they needed more. Your grandmother tried to warn people, Diane said, showing me a letter Gran had written to Dad's parents, but no one wanted to believe their children were capable of this. How did she stand it? Watching them do this for years? She didn't have a choice. If she cut them off completely, she'd never see you. So she gave just enough to keep the peace, saved everything else, and made plans. Around midnight, Diane handed me a final envelope. This one's different, she said. Your grandmother made me promise to give this to you only after you'd seen everything else. After you knew the truth. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single page in Gran's handwriting, dated the day before she died. My dearest girl, if you're reading this, then you know. You know what your parents are. You know what I've done to protect you. And you're probably wondering why I didn't tell you sooner. The truth is, I was a coward. I didn't want to be the one to break your heart. I wanted you to see them for who they were on your own terms. But I also knew they'd come for this money the second I was gone. So I did the only thing I could do. I built you armor. The money isn't about the money. It's about freedom. It's about having the power to say no. It's about never having to choose between your integrity and your survival. Your mother is my daughter, and I loved her the best I could. But I failed her somewhere along the way. She learned to value things over people, status over character, money over love. I couldn't save her from that. But I could save you. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to wonder if you should help them. You're going to hear their voices in your head telling you you're selfish, ungrateful, wrong. Don't listen. Guilt is just their weapon. You owe them nothing but honesty. Live the life I couldn't. Go to college, see the world, build something beautiful, fall in love, make mistakes, be generous to people who deserve it. But don't let anyone, not even family, make you feel small for protecting yourself. I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you. Not because of anything you've done, but because of who you are. You have a good heart. Don't let them harden it. Love always, Gran. I read it 3 times before I could speak. She knew they'd try to destroy you with guilt, Diane said softly. She knew because they did it to her for years. How do I just walk away from them? They're my parents. You don't walk away from them. You walk toward yourself. There's a difference. The next morning, I drove to the lawyer's office, the one who'd handled Gran's estate. I brought Diane and every document from both lockboxes. The lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chen who'd known Gran for 40 years, listened as I explained what I'd found. She nodded slowly, unsurprised. Your grandmother came to me 2 years ago, Patricia said. She wanted to make sure everything was airtight. She told me your parents would fight, would accuse her of being manipulated or incompetent. We spent months building a case they couldn't challenge. They still tried. And they lost. They'll try again, though. People like your parents don't give up when there's money involved. Patricia pulled out another file. Your grandmother anticipated that, too. She left instructions for a restraining order if needed. Documentation of harassment, financial abuse, emotional manipulation, everything you'd need to protect yourself legally. I don't want to file a restraining order against my parents. You might not have a choice. She was right. Over the next week, the harassment escalated. Dad showed up at my work again, this time with my brother. They cornered me in the parking lot after my shift, demanding I reconsider. Said the family was falling apart because of me. Said Gran would be ashamed of what I'd become. I recorded the whole conversation on my phone. My sister came next. She showed up at my apartment crying, saying she didn't care about the money, but couldn't I at least help a little? Her own house was in jeopardy because she'd co-signed on Mom and Dad's loans. Why would you do that? I asked. Because that's what family does, she sobbed. We help each other, unlike some people. I can't help you. Can't or won't. It was the same script, the same words, like they'd practiced. Won't, I said firmly. I won't help people who only see me as a solution to their problems. She left screaming about how I'd ruined her life. The social media posts got worse. Mom created a GoFundMe claiming they were about to be homeless because their daughter had abandoned them in their time of need. She included photos of me as a child, happy family moments, evidence of how they'd sacrificed for me. The campaign raised $3,400 before I reported it for fraud. It was taken down within 24 hours. Mom called screaming about how I'd stolen from her, how I'd taken money that people had donated in good faith, how I was a liar and a thief. I hung up and blocked her number. Then the letters started. Certified mail, return receipt requested, legal threats, demands for mediation, claims that I'd promised to help them and was now reneging, statements from family friends saying they'd heard me agree to pay off the house. Patricia reviewed each one. They're building a case for promissory estoppel, trying to claim you made verbal promises to help them financially, and they relied on those promises to their detriment. I never promised anything. I know. But they'll try anyway. She started drafting responses. We need to create a paper trail showing you've consistently refused to give them money. 2 months crawled by. My 24th birthday came on a Tuesday, the same day of the week Gran had died. Diane took me to lunch at the same diner where we'd first met. The trust transfers at midnight, she said. Tomorrow morning, you'll have complete access to everything. The house in Vermont, the investment accounts, everything. I still can't believe it. Believe it. Your grandmother worked her entire life for this. Diane slid an envelope across the table. One more thing. She left this for your birthday. Inside was a key and a photo. The photo showed a small house surrounded by trees, mountains in the background. The key had a tag that read, Your Future. The house in Vermont, Diane explained. She wanted you to have a place that was entirely yours. No memories of your parents, no one knowing where you are. A fresh start. I turned the photo over. On the back, Gran had written, Home is where you make it. Make yours full of love. At midnight, I logged into the trust account. The balance showed $682,247.16, combined with the original inheritance minus legal fees. I had $1,007,247.16, over $1 million. I sat in my apartment staring at the screen. This was enough for college, graduate school if I wanted, a safety net that would last years, maybe decades if I was smart. I thought about what Gran had written, live the life I couldn't. The next morning, I gave notice at my retail job. I enrolled in community college for the spring semester, planning to transfer to a university later. I started researching degree programs, career paths, possibilities I'd never let myself consider. For the first time in my life, I could plan beyond next month's rent. But my parents weren't done. 3 weeks after my birthday, a process server appeared at my door. My parents were suing me for financial elder abuse. Again. This time claiming I'd coerced Gran into changing her will, isolated her from her family, and stolen money that rightfully belonged to them as her next of kin. The lawsuit demanded $500,000 in damages. Patricia wasn't surprised. This is their last desperate play. They know they can't win, but they're hoping you'll settle to make it go away. How much will this cost me? In legal fees? Could be $30,000 or more if it goes to trial. But it won't. She showed me the evidence we'd compiled. We have documentation of every conversation, every text, every demand they made. We have your grandmother's notarized statements. We have the previous lawsuit's dismissal. No judge will let this proceed. She was right. The judge dismissed the case at the first hearing, citing the previous ruling and calling the new lawsuit a transparent attempt to harass and financially drain the defendant. He ordered my parents to pay my legal fees. They never paid. I didn't expect them to. But something shifted after that dismissal. My brother finally called. Not to yell or demand, but to apologize. I didn't know, he said quietly. I didn't know what they'd been doing. The emails, the manipulation, all of it. Dad showed me the court documents and I saw the evidence. I saw what they tried to do to Gran. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm sorry. I took their side without question. I should have listened to you. He paused. I'm moving out. I can't be around them anymore. Not after seeing who they really are. We met for coffee the following week. He looked exhausted, older than his 26 years. They drained my startup money, he said. The $30,000 I asked you for? Dad convinced me to invest it in his new business venture instead. Said it was a sure thing, that we'd both make money. I found out last week there was never a business. He used it to make loan payments. I'm sorry. Don't be. You tried to warn me. He stirred his coffee, not drinking it. My sister's in the same boat. She co-signed their loans because they promised they'd pay them back. Now she's getting collection calls and they've stopped answering her entirely. What are they living on? I have no idea. They sold the house finally, but it went to the bank. They're renting some apartment across town. Mom works part-time at a department store. Dad's unemployed. They're barely surviving, and they blame everyone but themselves. We sat in silence for a while. Gran left you everything for a reason, my brother finally said. I get it now. You were the only one who never asked her for anything. After that conversation, my sister reached out too. She was angrier, more defensive, but she was trying. I'm not asking for money, she said immediately. I just want you to know I understand. I saw the court documents too. I saw what they did. I'm sorry you got caught up in this. I caught myself up in it. I should have known better than to co-sign their loans. I just thought, she trailed off. I thought if I helped them, they'd finally see me as valuable, as worth something. You are worth something, just not to them. She started crying then. We talked for 2 hours. About our childhoods, about the way Mom and Dad had always pitted us against each other, about how they'd taught us that love was transactional. I'm working with a therapist, she said, trying to unlearn all of it. That's good. That's really good. Slowly, carefully, my siblings and I started building something new. Not the family we'd had, but something more honest. We met for dinner once a month, talked about our lives without performing for anyone, started learning who we actually were outside of our parents' expectations. Mom and Dad tried to interfere, of course. They showed up at one of our dinners demanding to be included. When we refused, Mom screamed that we were traitors, that we'd all turned against her. My brother stood up. "No, Mom. We turned toward ourselves. There's a difference." It was Diane's line, the one she'd told me months ago. We'd all adopted it. After they left, my sister asked the question we'd all been avoiding. "Do you think we'll ever have a relationship with them again?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe if they change, but they'd have to want to change first." "They won't," my brother said flatly. "People like them never think they're the problem." 6 months after Gran died, I drove to Vermont to see the house. Diane came with me. We made it a road trip, stopping at diners and tourist traps, talking about everything and nothing. The house was perfect. Small, 2 bedrooms, surrounded by woods. Inside, everything was simple but well-maintained. Gran had even left furniture, dishes, towels, everything I'd need to move in tomorrow if I wanted. "She bought this 8 years ago," Diane said, walking through the rooms. "Spent every vacation fixing it up. She'd come up here and paint, repair cabinets, plant the garden. She never told anyone what she was doing. She was building my escape route. She was building your future." I stood in the living room looking out at the mountains and cried. Not sad tears, but overwhelmed ones. Gran had spent 8 years preparing this place for me, working in secret, planning for a future she wouldn't see. I moved to Vermont that fall, started at the university in the spring semester, majoring in social work. I wanted to help people the way Diane had helped me, the way Gran had tried to help others her whole life. Diane visited every month. My brother and sister came for Thanksgiving. We started new traditions, ones based on choice instead of obligation. My parents sent cards sometimes. Birthday cards, Christmas cards, always with notes about how much they missed me, how family should stick together, how they'd always be there when I was ready to come home. I never responded. 1 year after Gran's death, I received a letter from Mom's lawyer. She was filing for bankruptcy. The letter said she wanted me to know she didn't blame me, that she understood I'd made my choice, but that she hoped I could live with the consequences of letting my family suffer. I filed the letter away with all the others. "Evidence," Patricia had said. "Keep everything." 2 years after Gran's death, my sister got engaged. She asked me to be her maid of honor. She didn't invite our parents. "They'll make it about them," she said. "About how we're ungrateful. About the money. I want one day that's just about me and him. Is that selfish?" "No," I said. "That's healthy." The wedding was beautiful. Small, intimate, honest. My brother walked her down the aisle. Diane sat in the front row crying happy tears. We took photos and laughed and celebrated without performing for anyone. Mom found out later and sent a long email about how we'd excluded her from her own daughter's wedding, how cruel we were, how she'd always known we didn't love her. My sister deleted it without responding. 3 years after Gran's death, I graduated with my bachelor's degree. Diane surprised me by flying in for the ceremony. My siblings came too. We went to dinner after and toasted Gran. "She'd be proud," Diane said. "You did exactly what she wanted. You lived." I thought about that often, about how Gran had spent her whole life being small, being quiet, being whatever my mom needed her to be. And then at the end, she'd found the courage to be different, to choose me over keeping the peace. 4 years after Gran's death, I got my master's degree and started working at a nonprofit helping women escape financial abuse. I saw my parents in every case, the manipulation, the guilt, the way they'd convinced their victims that love meant sacrifice without reciprocation. I helped women file restraining orders, navigate legal systems, build new lives. I gave them the tools Gran had given me. One day, a woman came in who reminded me so much of my mother, I almost couldn't breathe. Same voice, same mannerisms, same way of turning every conversation into a crisis she needed rescuing from. "My daughter cut me off," she said, "over money. I just needed a little help and she abandoned me." I listened to her story, heard the same justifications, the same victim language, the same refusal to see her own role in the destruction. "Have you considered," I said carefully, "that your daughter might have good reasons?" She looked at me like I'd slapped her. "Whose side are you on?" "I'm on the side of truth. And truth is, if your daughter cut you off, it's because you taught her that was the only way to survive." She left angry, filed a complaint. My supervisor reviewed the case and backed me up. "Sometimes," my supervisor said, "the kindest thing we can do is refuse to enable someone's denial." 5 years after Gran's death, I got a letter from Dad. He was sick, he wrote. Cancer. Advanced stage. He wanted to see me before it was too late, wanted to make amends. I called my siblings first. "It might be true," my sister said, "but it also might not be. They've lied before." "Even if it's true," my brother added, "you don't owe him a deathbed reconciliation." I thought about it for a week. Finally, I called Patricia. "What would Gran want me to do?" "Your grandmother would want you to do whatever keeps you whole," Patricia said. "Not what makes you look good. Not what makes them feel better. What keeps you intact." I wrote back to Dad. A short letter. I said I was sorry he was sick, that I hoped he found peace, but that I wasn't ready to see him yet and might never be. I sent it certified mail. He responded with anger, called me cold, heartless, said I was just like Gran, selfish and vindictive. I read the letter once and put it in the file with the others. 6 years after Gran's death, Diane had a stroke. Mild but scary. I flew back immediately and stayed for 2 weeks while she recovered. You didn't have to come, she said from her hospital bed. Yes, I did. Your family, real family. She squeezed my hand. Your grandmother knew. She knew you'd find your real family eventually. People who choose you, not people who own you. I think about her every day. Good. She'd like that. 7 years after Gran's death, I bought my own house. Not the one in Vermont. I kept that as a sanctuary, but a place in town, closer to work, closer to the community I'd built. My siblings helped me move in. Diane supervised from a chair, still recovering but insisting on being there. We ordered pizza and sat on the floor of my empty living room eating from paper plates. Gran would have loved this, my sister said. She did, Diane said quietly. She used to talk about it all the time, how one day you'd all find your way to each other, how you'd build something better than what you came from. 8 years after Gran's death, I got a Facebook message from a name I didn't recognize. When I opened it, I found a photo of my mother. She was working at a fast food restaurant looking older and tired. The message was from a former neighbor. Thought you should know your mom's struggling. She's been talking about you. Says she made mistakes. Wants to apologize. I stared at the photo for a long time. Then I blocked the sender and deleted the message. Some people think that's cruel. That I should give her another chance. That family deserves forgiveness. But I remember Gran's letter. Guilt is just their weapon. 9 years after Gran's death, I met someone. A good person. Someone who listened when I talked about my family and didn't try to fix it. Didn't say blood is thicker than water. Didn't suggest I give them one more chance. You survived them, he said simply. That's enough. We got engaged on the anniversary of Gran's death. It felt right somehow. Marking an ending and a beginning on the same day. Diane cried when I told her. She knew you'd find this. Happiness on your own terms. 10 years after Gran's death, I stood in the Vermont house looking at old photos. I'd found another box in the attic. More letters, more evidence of Gran's secret life. Her plans, her hopes, her dreams for me. In the very last envelope, I found something unexpected. A birth certificate. Mine. But the father's name wasn't the man who'd raised me. I called Diane immediately. I know, she said quietly. Your grandmother made me promise not to tell you until you were ready, until you'd built a life strong enough to handle it. Who is he? A good man. Someone your grandmother loved. Someone your mother drove away when she found out she was pregnant. She married your dad 3 months later and convinced everyone he was your father. Does he know about me? Your grandmother stayed in touch with him, sent photos, updates. He wanted to meet you, but your mother threatened a restraining order, so he watched from a distance. And when your grandmother died, he contributed to your trust. An extra $100,000. The number suddenly made sense. $680,000 had seemed like such a specific amount. He wants to meet me? He's wanted to for 23 years. I met him at a coffee shop in Boston. He was a professor, kind-faced, nervous. We sat across from each other, and I saw pieces of myself I'd never understood. My hands, my smile, my tendency to gesture when I talked. Your grandmother sent me photos every year, he said. I watched you grow up in snapshots. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. Why didn't you fight for custody? Your mother was very convincing. She threatened to disappear with you if I tried. Said I'd never see you at all. Your grandmother begged me to wait, to let you grow up first. She said when you were old enough, you'd find your way to the truth. We talked for 4 hours. About his life, his family, his regrets. He'd never married, never had other children. I kept hoping, he said, that someday you'd want to know me. I do, I said. I'm here. 11 years after Gran's death, I walked down the aisle. My biological father walked beside me, Diane on my other arm. My siblings sat in the front row. My chosen family filled the seats. My mother and the man who'd raised me weren't invited. They sent cards anyway, delivered to Diane's house. Inside were checks, small amounts, $50, $100, with notes about how they wanted to contribute to my happiness. I deposited the checks in a savings account for my future children. Blood money, I thought, but maybe it could become something better. 12 years after Gran's death, I had a daughter. We named her after Gran. When she was born, I held her and promised things my mother had never promised me. I will never make you pay for loving me, I whispered. I will never count the cost of raising you. I will never make you responsible for my mistakes. Diane visited the hospital, held my daughter, and cried. Your grandmother would have loved her, she said. She does, I said. I believe that. 13 years after Gran's death, I got a call from a hospice nurse. My mother was dying, liver failure. She'd been asking for me. I sat with my phone for an hour before calling back. Tell her I forgive her, I said. But I'm not coming. The nurse paused. Are you sure? These might be your last words to her. I'm sure. My mother died 3 days later. My siblings and I split the funeral costs. None of us attended. People judged us for it. Said we were heartless. But we'd learned from Gran. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone else's delusion. 14 years after Gran's death, I found my biological father unconscious in his apartment. Heart attack. I rode in the ambulance, held his hand through surgery, stayed by his bedside for a week. You didn't have to, he said when he woke up. Yes, I did. You're my dad. It was the first time I'd said it. He cried. 15 years after Gran's death, I sat in the Vermont house watching my daughter play in the garden Gran had planted. My husband was grilling burgers. My siblings were arguing about politics in that way families do when they love each other. Diane was reading in the shade. This was the life Gran had wanted for me. Not perfect, but honest. Not painless, but real. Not bound by obligation, but built on choice. I thought about the inheritance, not the money, though that had changed everything, but the real inheritance. The knowledge that love shouldn't cost everything you are. The understanding that family is who chooses you and who you choose back. The strength to say no to people who only love what you can give them. My daughter ran over, dirt on her hands and joy in her eyes. Mama, look what I found! She opened her palm. Inside was a twist tie, rusted and bent. Gran saved these, I said softly, because you never knew when you'd need them. My daughter looked confused. She'd never met the woman she was named for, but she would know her story. She would know what it cost to break free, what it took to choose yourself. Can I keep it? She asked. Yes, baby. You can keep it. She ran off, treasure in hand. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat on the porch alone. The Vermont stars were brilliant, infinite. I thought about Gran working those factory double shifts, saving twist ties and planning futures, loving me enough to let me be free. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos, scrolled back years to a picture Diane had given me, Gran at my age, holding my mother as a baby. In the photo, Gran was smiling, but I could see it now, the sadness in her eyes, the knowledge of what was coming. She'd tried to save my mother too, and when she couldn't, she'd saved me instead. Thank you, I whispered to the stars. Thank you for everything. The night wind rustled through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called, and I swear I heard Gran's voice, soft as memory. Live the life I couldn't, my darling. That's what this money is for. I would.